Good morning. I am Pat de la Fuente, and I'm here to welcome you to the Morristown Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, where we covenant to weave together the fabric of community from the strands of our separate lives. We are people of all ages, coming from a variety of backgrounds and experiences of what we call religious or spiritual. Many Sunday services are led by our interim minister, the Reverend Joel Miller. Others, such as the one this morning, are led by members of the congregation. Some of you are here this morning in the meeting room. Others of you are with us online. We are an inclusive, welcome congregation. Whoever you are, wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. And I have some announcements. You'll notice that there are announcements on the back of the order of service as well. One of them being that today there will be something dealing with a conversation about sexual orientation, changing views of gender identity and pronouns. This is an on-site workshop, in person only, and for people 18 and over. Contact Joel Miller, who's not here today, but Nick Walwork, if you had a question. Nick, can you raise your hand, or some people know who? If you don't know who Nick is, okay. Okay. Next Sunday, February 5th, the Odyssey program will continue with the presentation of a film featuring Steve Runyon, who's been helpful today as our associate. Come hear the story of how he grew up down south and became a Dungeons & Dragons dungeon master. So the program next week begins at 12:45. There'll be additional refreshments after the 11:15 service to help fight off lunchtime hunger. And there will be, after the film, there'll be a Q&A session so you can chat with Steve about his unique journey. The other thing that I'm highlighting that's on the back with the announcements is that the fellowship is invited to join the fellowship's board and staff in attending a startup event on Saturday morning, February 4th. That will be this coming Saturday, 9 to 1. And the information is in the email blast for more information. Basically about how we further development of relationship with Joel Miller during this interim year. So that is what the welcome announcements are about. And now we can get to my opening words. As Unitarian Universalists, we commit to a series of principles and draw on a variety of spiritual traditions, including, and I'll quote here, spiritual traditions of earth-centered traditions which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. The Celtic tradition is one that has celebrated this time of year as Imbolc, which we call Groundhog Day, a promise of better things to come. What sustains us as we seek to emerge from this COVID pandemic? Now I'm going to ask Laurie, Crosse, and maybe some of the students to come and to light the chalice and to point out that we seek comfort from our commitment to each other and to the pledge we make each week as we light the chalice. And Alex, can you put that on me? There it is. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And actually to celebrate the joy in seeing young people grow up here. That's absolutely wonderful. Okay, and now we will sing our opening song. Please rise in body and spirit, and we'll sing it 2 times. It says, "Come, come, whoever you are."
ages, so if I could have anyone young in body, mind, or spirit to come join us up here on the steps. Anyone else? Okay, so this morning I have a poem from a book titled Rupert's Tales, The Wheel of the Year, which focuses on the four parts of the year that we celebrate, and today is Imbolc, which is midwinter, exactly the middle from the time winter started, the winter solstice, in December, and halfway to spring in March. So I have the poem written here, and Laurie will be showing you the pictures from the storybook if you want to look at that. Rupert the rabbit was cold. Oh, so very cold. All of the snow and ice was really getting old. The branches above him were bare as could be. His friends were all sleeping, and so was the tree. Here on the edge of the forest was a thick grove of trees, elms, oaks, birch, and many cypress with their long, knobby knees. Tomorrow, he thought, all the people will come with their dancing, chanting, rituals, and drums. No matter the season, right here was their place, with a meadow or clearing, a kind of round space. He wondered, though, if this time they might just stay away. The weather was still freezing, even during the day. Oh, they'll come all right, he heard a small voice say. There's no need to worry, they won't stay away. Must be a fairy, Rupert thought, one with sparkling wings. Why, yes, said a cheerful voice, and I've come to show you some things. And when Rupert looked, he saw people, but not the ones he already knew, tiny figures in the ice doing strange things that to him were brand new. See that woman there? Asked the fairy. She's leaving out a ribbon made of silk. And there's a small boy, he said, pointing in the ice, putting out a glass of milk. These things are left for Bridget, a fiery goddess of great fame. At Imbolc, there are many who seek her favor and bless her name. Oh, look, said Rupert, still gazing into the ice-covered lake. See those people? I wonder what it is they're going to make. They're gathered all together in a circle, each raising a hand. But what it is they're doing is something I just don't understand. They're making an important promise, the fairy explained with a smile. Imbolc is a time of beginnings for things that can take quite a while. Imbolc is the time for the quickening of the earth, time to get ready for nature's cycle of rebirth. As the season has a beginning, so too must it have an end. So how long, Rupert wanted to know, before I'll be warm again? There's a saying that people have, just like the ones you know. Now listen very carefully, for this is how it goes. And I'm going to ask you now to think about anything we celebrate today. This might sound familiar, okay? So try to think if this reminds you of anything. If Imbolc day be fair and bright, winter will have another flight. If Imbolc day be clouds and rain, winter's gone and won't come again. No matter how we mark it or celebrate Imbolc day, the wheel of the year is turning and spring will come our way. Did that poem remind you of anything? Fair and bright. Anybody look for whether we're going to have a longer winter or a shorter winter? What do you think? Groundhog Day, exactly. So if it's fair and bright, will he see his shadow? Do we have a shadow if we have the light? Yeah, so if it's light, there will be another flight. It'll be a little longer. Otherwise, clouds and rain, he won't see a shadow. right? It'll be blocking the sun, and winter will be over soon. Okay, and that's our story.
Normally, the kids leave right after the time for all ages. We're involving them in more for service today, so they'll be sticking around with us a little bit longer. So if you can go back to your seats for thank you for coming up here. So do we in this congregation celebrate the earth-based traditions and the wheel of the year? And why are we using these Celtic words like Imbolc instead of Groundhog Day? Well, we're living in a modern time so cut off from earth-based traditions that we sometimes look long ago and far away for information and inspiration. The word Celt or Celtic describes people from Northern Europe, people with weather very similar to the weather we have here. And so we sometimes use their customs as we seek a meaningful connection to the earth. We also have within this meeting room, with its 8 walls, a model of the circle of the Earth's journey around the sun and a place to imagine celebrations. Those of you who are not actually here may want to close your eyes as you envision this setting. And Laurie, you have some people to help out with the directions? Okay, so this is for all of you. We entered this building and this room in the north, which you can imagine as the winter solstice, the longest night and the shortest day. It's a holiday many of us celebrated last month. The glass door over there is the east, representing the spring equinox when day and night are equal in length. The front of this room is the south, which could represent the summer solstice, the longest day and the shortest night. And then we turn around again, and the glass door over there is the west, thank you, representing the autumn equinox. Sometimes we also notice and celebrate the in-between days. I mentioned that there are really 8 walls that make this room look like a circle. If you look around, you'll see that. So look at the space in the east after spring, but before summer. You see how the wall goes in there. What would we have between spring and summer? We would have the beginning of May, May 1st, May Day, sometimes called Beltane by the Celts. Most of us no longer dance around the maypole or give each other May baskets, but we like to think about a time when people did that. And most of us really like to celebrate May weather. It's usually very pleasant. Between summer and autumn, we have a day, that wall, that the Celts called Lammas or Lanasa, a word that most of us would say we don't think we celebrate, we're not familiar with it. Although, do any of you ever go to county or state fairs, 4-H fair? Those are in August, and in a way we are celebrating an early harvest when we do that. Between autumn and winter, we have a day that the Celts call Samhain, and we call Halloween. We know we definitely recognize and celebrate that one. So now coming back again to north, between north and east, we have Imbolc, Groundhog Day, in that space between. It's called a cross-quarter day, coming out of winter and not yet spring, and most likely will be celebrated next week, February 2nd, with events like seeing whether or not Punxsutawney Phil sees his shadow. Oh, and if you have any doubts about the directions, you can just check it for yourself. When you leave here and you go into the Great Hall, when you're near the staircase, look up at the ceiling and you'll see that this building has, from its beginning, been centered on the directions. You can use that in case you ever lose your bearing.
Dark of winter, soft and still, your quiet calm surrounds me. Let my thoughts go where ease my mind profoundly. And then my soul will sing a song, a blessed song of love eternal. Gentle darkness, soft and still, bring your quiet to me. Darkness, soothe my weary eyes, that I may see more clearly. When my heart with sorrow cries, comfort and caress me. And then my soul may hear a voice, a still small voice of love eternal. Darkness, when my fears arise, let your peace flow through me. Darkness, when my fears arise, let your peace flow through me.
I'd like to begin with a short poem. It's called The Bravery of Love by William Stafford. If I should have that bravery of gaining love, I would hold this hand out, level, warm, for the buffeted, snowbound little birds to come and feed for all the years unharmed. If I should have that bravery of love. There are many fields where few birds come through solitary storms on level land, without a creature, save the hawks that rend where scarecrows wait, holding an equal hand out for the little birds to come. But through a night so parallel with snow, I hold my hand out, steady, so. Nature teaches us. In the story of that woodland critter ambling out of its shelter into the cold winter air. How does the tale apply to us now? Psychologists say the shadow represents the dark, the hidden sides of us, fears, habits holding us back. And the sun, ancient symbol of warmth, growth, life. Groundhog Day, the Celtic St. Bridget Day, or Imbolc, is celebrated in folk, Christian, and pagan traditions. They symbolize preparation for new growth. How does that relate to our COVID challenges? Though I missed much during COVID, it compelled me to clear away and simplify. Before COVID, Mike and I interacted daily with people through work, fellowship, travel, socializing. That came to a grinding halt, replaced with staying home, scared. Ordering groceries, wiping down the mail outdoors, human contact through something called Zoom. But there were blessings. We sold our house, moved to Jersey, spent all but the first months of COVID near my daughter and her family. My private practice, formerly in person, now virtual. Weather, traffic, schedules, phobias, they don't have to prevent people from getting the help they need. My Long Island Fellowship sponsored a meditation group. It continues, a vital connection, now virtual. Walks I used to take, they've again become the norm. finding the good. So how do we, in this year, begin to reclaim our lives? Our principles call us to honor wisdom traditions and search for truth. In this case, the science of staying well, masks, vaccines, antivirals, supporting people so that each can proceed at their own pace. Like groundhogs, sooner or later, each of us will come back out. Though Groundhog Day happens every year like clockwork, COVID was different. A once-in-a-lifetime correction to slow down and evaluate what was important. Some animals hibernate annually. A once-a-year reset. But at what price? How many deaths? Companies closed. Us learning and emerging wiser from the crisis could help give it some bit of meaning. I've been helping in the 4th and 5th grade for several months. Would the young people in the 4th and 5th grade please stand up so we can see you? John is resting. It's been a hard morning. Last week, I consulted you. You can sit. Yep, you can stand if you'd like, John. Thank you. Thank you so much. You may sit. Thank you. Last week, I consulted with you all about your thoughts on reemerging. Somebody said, this is our new normal. You spoke of both, what you didn't like and what you liked and learned. Finding ways to appreciate little things in life. Somebody said, I used to not like rain, but I realized it's not boring. It's helping things grow. Somebody else said, I made new friends in my pod. I got some new hobbies, like I became interested in musicals. Somebody admitted, I didn't like not leaving the house or seeing friends. But it was fun and nice to be with my family. My dog loved COVID. I worked on seeing the good, appreciating my family. You, John, Eric, yes, and you can say it. Yes, and your name is? Alistair. You are so smart. Each week, I'm amazed by your courage, your knowledge, your resilience. Though I'm here to teach you, it's you who inspire me. You are our future. You give me hope. So now, we will all, the youth, we will now go to RE, accompanied by Brent on the piano and by Alistair and Eric taking turns on the bodhrán, which is Irish for drum. Okay, fine, split the root up 3 ways. Here we go.
About in bulk, COVID, and Groundhog Day. In bulk is about celebrating the spring that will soon come, the light in the distance. A midwinter festival of lights and burning fires helps us to recognize that now is a time when we need extra light, extra clothes, extra patience, and extra resolve. As we consider the pandemic as a winter of sorts, it too was forcing us to either stay indoors or bundle our face up. Fear of contracting the virus was my main concern as I adapted through the pandemic. I felt lucky that I did not know anyone with COVID and lucky that I was able to stay home, other than food shopping every 3 or 4 weeks to a supermarket in the town with the lowest COVID count. Planning very carefully due to the high risk involved, my first food shopping expedition was to a supermarket in Kinnelon, about 20 minutes away. I had carefully scoured the COVID counts in every town in Morris County, and their counts were the lowest. I went as early in the morning as possible, happy to take advantage of senior hours. I wore a mask concocted from a tank top. I was the only person in the store with a mask, but I didn't mind taking a fashion risk, as it seemed like the type of protection everyone should have on. Scoping out each register to decide which seemed the safest, I found checking out my groceries meant standing uncomfortably close to someone who might expose me to the virus. It was the scariest part of my trip. On another food shopping adventure, I drove as far as Hunterdon County because their numbers were so low at the time. Up until 4 weeks ago, I was an elementary school teacher. Although the first 6 months of the pandemic required 12-hour days to prepare lesson materials online, meeting with students through online meets, and whichever family members in their home joined in, my stress increased when I was required to return to the classroom that September 2020 through months of pre-vaccine days. I wore a mask. Some days I wore 2 masks. Some children wore masks that fit. Some did not. Some of the students' masks barely covered their faces. Some fit pretty well. There was incredible consistency in that the quality of coverage for any student did not waver from day to day. They obviously had a personal policy of how much they were going to cover their face, and there was nothing that could be done about it, really, even with rules in place. About 3.5 months into the pandemic, I did a Google search for an online meditation group and found the Westchester Buddhist Center. They were a welcoming group that met at 9 a.m. every morning for a quick chat and then an hour-long meditation, alternating sitting and walking as one wished. As the year went by, I watched the leader's living room in Manhattan fill with boxes. And then one day, we were introduced to their new living room, now in Boulder, Colorado. The idea of moving in the middle of a pandemic seemed incredible. But what had been happening in Manhattan at the start of the pandemic was incredible too. I found other online groups that focused on books, art, and music. As a lifelong learner, I was grateful to have stumbled on conversations where I could sit back and just listen, amazed at the level of knowledge participants shared. My favorite group is organized by an open-minded leader who encourages participation, whether you read part of the book, you finished it, or didn't finish it. He allows the conversation to touch on everything from history to economics to politics. His intention is to focus on stirring up dialogue. A leader of a different history book club is clearly conservative with strict rules requiring participants to read the entire book and to never touch on politics. His rules became very clear when one participant who I knew from the other book group was verbally reprimanded for bringing up politics. The leader later apologized for his outburst, but that person has not returned. I found online groups can be a wonderful way of learning about common interests, and that, like any group, they create a culture where people are either attracted to or repelled by, making it easy to see how a culture reinforces itself. Going back to Groundhog Day, February 2nd, 2020, a report in Vanity Fair stated, "Put your hats and scarves in storage. It is going to be a short winter." It continued, "This isn't just wishful thinking. This is an empirical, measurable truth discovered Sunday in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania." This was almost 3 years ago, a very, very long time ago, given the situation. The report did not mention or was unaware of how close we were, about 5 weeks away from a lockdown, wishfully thinking that all we had to be concerned about was the possibility of 6 more weeks of snow.
And now it will be time for the morning's offering. And Marjorie Wormser is going to be singing, let's see, I have it, Drive the Cold Winter Away. If you want to donate online, the information is on the order of service. And if you're here, the baskets will be passed away around. Basically, the offering today will be split 50-50 between this fellowship and the UUA Disaster Relief Fund in support of the UU Church of Monterey Peninsula. They have been severely impacted by the wind and flooding this year in California. Please give generously if you can.
All hail to the days that merit more praise than all the rest of the year, and welcome the nights that double delight, as well for the poor as the peer. Good fortune attend each merryman's friend, all doth that the best he may, forgetting old wrongs with carols and songs to drive the cold winter away. 'Tis ill for a mind to anger inclined, to think of small injuries now. If wrath be to seek, do not lend her thy cheek, nor let anger inhabit thy brow. Cross out of thy books malevolent looks, both beauty and youth's decay, and wholly consort with mirth and good sport to drive the cold winter away. 'Tis time of the year is spent in good cheer, and neighbors together do meet, to sit by the fire in friendly desire, in love each other to greet. Old grudges forgot are put in the pot, all sorrows aside they lay. Women, children, and men do the best that they can to drive the cold winter away.
And now we will share our milestones and passages, which we have often referred to as joys and concerns. And I have here a joy from Shari Lowe, saying that after 5 years as a staff attorney at South Jersey Legal Services, my son, Chris Benson, has been promoted to managing attorney for the Monmouth County office of the organization, which provides legal services to the poor. So that's a definite joy. There's also a concern, if Alex would play the video, it's expressed by our Reverend Joel Miller, who's not here today, but he'd like to share his concern with us.
Good morning, Morristown Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I'm honored to be your interim minister. I'm grateful to be part of a congregation deeply committed to creating strong spiritual bonds among its members and friends, a congregation so committed to making the world a better place. And I want to acknowledge this morning, as part of our milestones and passages, that sometimes we hurt one another. Last week, there were comments made during the 11:15 service. It won't be helpful to describe what happened, but I want to acknowledge that some of us were hurt by the comments, and acknowledge that this congregation is committed to doing the right thing, especially as we're guided by living the 8th principle. You all clearly aspire to be a welcoming, caring, multicultural, spiritual community. And we aspire together to be anti-racist. To our members and friends who are Black folks, we want to be better at caring for you and seeing your lives, especially after the painful events of this past week. And for those of us who are white, I want to remind us that this is our work together. This is work for all of us, not just some of us. We all do it together. And we will do this together. And we will continue to be a blessed and loving community together, and we will continue to make an important difference in the world around us.
I know there are many joys and concerns that have not been expressed. I think all of you can think about things that you're concerned about in your own personal lives or want to celebrate in personal lives, in the community, in the larger world. I'm just offering just a minute of silence so we can feel the community and feel that we're in this together. Sometimes I hear UUs say they wish they had the beliefs of some other religions, the faith that praying to some being would help them. I often respond that many UUs do indeed have that faith, and they do pray. But what I find empowering about being here as a UU is that we don't have to have the same beliefs. We value diversity. We know that we can draw on each other's strengths as well as our own. How has being a member of the congregation helped me during the pandemic? Well, it hasn't always been easy, especially during the extreme lockdown in the early days. We think of ourselves as members of a community. This room, after all, is called the meeting room. It's where we come together. When we couldn't do that, when it wasn't safe, some of our rather extraordinary members set us up on Zoom and other online ways to connect. Some even meditated together online because it was not safe to breathe in, breathe out the same air. We formed community circles and book groups and cinema circles and had committee meetings, looking at each other on a screen that made us look like Hollywood Squares or the Brady Bunch or whatever you're familiar with on TV. We have valued resilience. Over my years here, I've learned that anything and everything can be considered sacred, and anything can enrich my life as I try to become whole or healthy. Here at this fellowship, we used to declare discipleship to advancing truth, very wordy, almost Victorian phrase. We've since that time updated the wording. And yet part of the scientific method is the willingness to change our mindset as new data emerge. Keeping an open mind has been really important as we learn new, sometimes conflicting information about COVID. A few years ago, I was part of a Sunday service here on how do we know what is true. I have asked myself that question many times during the past years as I tried to navigate this strange new world. Consider what we thought at the beginning of the pandemic. It might take a while. How long is a while? Everything might get better when the weather changes, or maybe not. Or we'd be okay if we had a vaccine, or maybe a vaccine and a booster, or several. Right now, our commitment to respecting each other's difference is being challenged. Some of us wear masks whenever we leave the house. Some of us don't leave the house at all. Many of us are vaccinated, some are not. Many of us have had some form of COVID. We know people who have died from this terrible disease. What truths have emerged? How can we live together in a time when we don't necessarily share the same truth? Can we avoid inflicting blame and guilt on ourselves and others? Well, guess what? I don't have all the answers. But I find comfort in comparing us to the groundhog, who has only a limited view of a world in which each year is a little bit different from the year before. For us human groundhogs, the world has been strange and scary for the past few years. Each year, a new and awful variant to this dreadful virus. And yet each year has a certain sameness since we're never sure that it's safe to come out. I think about the movie Groundhog Day, where Bill Murray has to repeat the same day over and over again, although with slight variations, which ended up making him a more caring, honest person. We don't necessarily get our wisdom from the movies, but as you use, nothing will stop us from doing that either. Whenever I get together with someone I haven't seen for a while, we ask each other, "How are you? How have you been?" And invariably, we tell each other COVID stories. I need to tell my story, and I need to hear yours. That's what this morning's service is about. May we continue to reach out to each other to tell our true stories and gradually emerge into a world like the one we will sing about in our next song, very optimistic, positive song, "Morning Has Come." And for closing words, I leave you with the simple sentence that we so often have said to each other during the pandemic: be safe, be well. Blessed be.